I still remember the day we made our biggest mistake. Not the day we attacked Earth, mind you. That came later. No, the real mistake was assuming those quiet little primates were soft. My name is Vorkith. I was an intelligence analyst for the Kaldreth Dominion, which, before humanity taught us humility, was the third most powerful empire in the Galactic Assembly. Notice I said was. There's a reason for that past tense, and it's sitting on a blue marble of a planet that we really should have left alone. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The first human transmission we intercepted was underwhelming. It was a golden disk attached to some primitive probe, floating through space like a message in a bottle. Our linguists nearly died laughing when they decoded it. Pictures of naked apes. Whale sounds. Something called Johnny Be Good, which, I'll admit, was actually pretty catchy. But the whole package screamed, "We're harmless. We're friendly. Please don't eat us." Naturally, we started planning the invasion. Now, you have to understand something about the Galactic Assembly. It's not really an assembly of equals. It's more like a pyramid scheme where the strong devour the weak, and everyone pretends there are rules. The Zelker hegemony sat at the top. The Mrendak Collective and my people, the Kaldreth, fought for second place. Below us? Hundreds of species who'd learned to smile while we stripped their worlds of resources. Earth was going to be my people's ticket to the big leagues. Admiral Vorkith, said Telmar, my subordinate and the closest thing I had to a friend in the fleet. The preliminary scans are complete. We were in the command center of the Retribution, a warship the size of a small moon. Around us, holographic displays showed a beautiful blue and green world, third planet from an unremarkable yellow star. And? I asked. The natives call themselves humans. Current population, approximately 7 billion. Technological level, barely spacefaring. They've achieved nuclear fission, primitive computing, and they've put a few of their own on their single natural satellite. I laughed. Actually laughed. They still use rockets? Chemical combustion? Yes, Admiral. Do they even have a planetary defense system? Telmar's tendrils rippled with amusement. No, sir. They have something called the United Nations, but our analysts believe it's mostly ceremonial. The planet is divided into approximately 200 separate nation-states, many of which actively despise each other. Oh, this was too perfect. So they're divided, primitive, and completely unprepared. When can we begin extraction operations? The High Council has approved immediate action, Admiral. We can begin harvest operations within 3 solar cycles. Harvest operations. That's what we called it when we stripped a world of everything valuable. Water. Minerals. Genetic material. And, if the native population proved useful, labor. If they didn't? Well, the Kaldreth weren't known for sentimentality. Excellent. Prepare the fleet. I want overwhelming force. Let's make this quick and clean. That's when everything went sideways. See, we'd made one critical error in our assessment. We'd assumed that because Earth wasn't unified, because they still used primitive technology, because they broadcast their location to the cosmos like idiots, that they were weak. We forgot to ask the important question, why would a species advertise their existence unless they wanted to be found? The attack began on what humans called a Tuesday morning. Not that I knew that at the time. We simply opened fire on their military installations, destroying what we believed to be their most powerful weapons. Missiles turned to slag before they could launch. Their aircraft fell from the sky. Their warships sank beneath the waves. Minimal resistance, Admiral, Telmar reported. Proceeding to Phase 2. Phase 2 was subjugation. Drop troops. Secure population centers. Begin processing. I watched from orbit as our assault carriers descended through Earth's atmosphere. Thousands of them. each carrying a battalion of Kaldreth warriors, the finest soldiers in 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. This would be over by dinner. Then my console started screaming. "Admiral! We're detecting weapons fire." "From where?" "We destroyed their military infrastructure." "No, sir. From everywhere. The weapons are crude but—" "Admiral, they're not surrendering." I pulled up the tactical display. Telmar was right. All across the planet, humans were fighting back. And they were using weapons we hadn't accounted for. Chemical explosives. Kinetic projectiles. One group in a place called Texas had somehow mounted an anti-tank weapon to a civilian transport vehicle. "This is normal," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "Primitive species always resist at first. They'll learn." But they didn't learn. Drop Commander Zalkirk sent his first report 3 hours into the ground assault. His voice was strained, which was concerning because Zalkirk had fought in 17 campaigns and never showed emotion. "Admiral, the humans. They're not fighting like anything we've encountered." "Explain." "They're coordinating. Despite having no central command, despite different languages and cultures, they're working together. And they're adapting. Fast. We deployed energy shields, and within an hour they figured out that sustained kinetic fire could overload them. We sent armored units, and they started targeting the joints with primitive explosives. Admiral, they're learning our weaknesses in real time. You have superior technology, Commander. Use it." "We are, sir. But they have numbers. And they're not afraid." A human child, couldn't have been more than 12 cycles old, charged one of my soldiers with a burning bottle of chemicals. Took out his armor before we could react. I felt something then. Not quite fear. Call it concern. "What are our casualties?" The pause was too long. 17% in the first wave, Admiral. And climbing. 17%. In 3 hours. Against a species using gunpowder and petroleum? "Commander, what exactly are we dealing with down there?" Another pause. When Zalkirk spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. I think we attacked a warrior species, Admiral." "Ridiculous. Humans were small, fragile, short-lived. They had forward-facing eyes like predators, sure, but so did dozens of herbivorous species. They couldn't be warriors. Warriors were strong, like the Mrendak. Or toxic, like the Zelker. Or numerous and hive-minded, like the Screeth. Humans were none of these things. Right? Hold your position, Commander. Reinforcements are en route." I sent another 3 battalions. Then another 5. By the end of the first day, I'd committed 60% of my ground forces. By the end of the second day, I was questioning whether I had enough. The reports kept coming in. Humans fighting with anything they could get their hands on. Humans refusing to retreat even when victory was impossible. Humans protecting each other, humans coordinating attacks across their primitive communication networks. And then there were the broadcasts. Every human with access to their internet, which was apparently most of them, had started uploading videos. Messages. Manifestos. At first, we thought it was propaganda, attempts to boost morale. But Telmar, who'd been monitoring their communications, showed me something that made my blood run cold. "Admiral, you need to see this." It was a video. A human male, maybe 30 cycles old, speaking into a camera. Behind him, I could see smoke and fire. One of our assault carriers burned in the background. "My name is Marcus Webb," the human said. His voice was steady despite the chaos. "I'm a high school teacher from Denver. Never fired a gun before last week. But I want you to know something, whoever's watching this. Whoever sent these things to our world. You made a mistake. He held up a weapon. One of ours. He'd taken it from a fallen soldier. We didn't want this war. We were out here, on our little planet, just trying to figure out our place in the universe. Yeah, we've got problems. Yeah, we fight each other sometimes. But here's the thing you didn't understand. Marcus Webb smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. We're really, really good at war. We've been practicing on each other for 10,000 years. Every weapon you see, every tactic, every strategy. We invented it to kill each other. And now we've got a common enemy. He raised the weapon. So thanks for that, I guess. Thanks for giving humanity a reason to stop fighting itself and remember what we're actually capable of. This is our planet. And you're not taking it. The video ended. I watched 17 more just like it. Different humans. Different languages. Same message. Telmar, I said quietly. Get me the High Council. Sir. Now. The council session was brief and unpleasant. Supreme Commander Volth listened to my report, his 3 eyes narrowing with each casualty figure. You're telling me, he said slowly, that we're losing to a pre-spaceflight civilization. Not losing, Supreme Commander. But not winning either. Unacceptable. Deploy orbital bombardment. Turn their cities to glass. Sir, the resources. I don't care about resources. I care about Kaldreth supremacy. If we can't conquer them, we'll destroy them. Let it be a lesson to every other primitive species in the galaxy. This is what happens when you resist the Dominion. I should have objected. Should have argued. But I was tired, and scared, and angry that these little apes had made fools of us. So I gave the order. The bombardment began at dawn, Earth time. We targeted military installations first, then infrastructure. Power plants. Water treatment facilities. Transportation hubs. The goal was to break them. Make them beg for mercy. It didn't work. You know what humans did when we knocked out their power grids? They lit fires. When we destroyed their factories. They made weapons in their homes. When we killed their leaders. New ones stepped up. And then, 3 days into the bombardment, everything changed. Telmar burst into my quarters without announcing himself, which was so unlike him that I knew something was catastrophically wrong. Admiral. The humans. They've launched something. What? More rockets. Our point defense systems will. No, sir. It's not a weapon. It's a transmission. Broadcasting on every frequency. Audio and visual. And Admiral. It's directed at the Galactic Assembly. My heart stopped. All 3 of them. Show me. The transmission appeared on my screen. A human female this time. Dark hair. Steady eyes. She wore some kind of uniform, military perhaps, but it was torn and dirty. My name is General Rebecca Hart, she said. Commander of the United Earth Defense Force. Yes, that's new. We formed it about 5 days ago when you decided to invade our home. She leaned forward. This message is for the Galactic Assembly, which we know exists because we've been monitoring your communications since you entered our solar system. Did you think we couldn't crack your encryption? Please. We've been breaking code since before we had electricity. Oh no. Here's what's going to happen. The Kaldreth Dominion is going to withdraw from Earth. All ships. All troops. All claim to our system. And they're going to do it in the next 24 hours. I almost laughed. Almost. The audacity was impressive, even if it was suicidal. And if they don't? Hart continued. Well, we've got a surprise for you. The feed cut to an image that made my blood freeze. A massive structure, floating in space. Not orbiting Earth. Orbiting their moon. This is the lighthouse, Hart said. We've been building it in secret for 30 years. Every nation contributed. Every breakthrough in physics, every advancement in engineering, it all went into this. What is it? I whispered. As if answering me, Hart smiled. It's a quantum entanglement communicator. Capable of instantaneous transmission across the entire galaxy. And right now, it's broadcasting everything that's happened here. Every war crime. Every civilian casualty. Every city you've burned. We're sending it to every species in the Galactic Assembly. Telmar made us sound like breaking glass. Admiral, if the other species see this. I know. But more importantly, Hart continued, we're sending them something else. Our entire technological database. Every weapon we've ever designed. Every tactic we've ever used. Every lesson we've learned from 10,000 years of warfare. We're giving it away. Free. To anyone who wants it. No. No, 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 no. So here's my question for the Galactic Assembly, Hart said. How many of your member species do you think are happy under Kaldreth rule? How many would like to be free? Because we're about to arm every single one of them. And we're going to teach them how to fight. The transmission ended. The silence in my command center lasted exactly 4 seconds before every console started screaming at once. Admiral. We're detecting uprisings on Vacral 7. The Pelthax colonies are revolting. Sir, the hegemony is demanding we withdraw immediately. They're threatening to declare war if we don't. I slumped in my command chair, watching my career, my people's empire, possibly my entire civilization crumble in real time. And you know what the worst part was? The humans were laughing. I could hear it in their broadcasts. Not cruel laughter. Not victorious. Just amused. Like they'd expected this. Like they'd planned for it. Which, as I would learn, they absolutely had. The recall order came 6 hours after General Hart's broadcast. Supreme Commander Volt himself delivered it, and I'd never heard him sound so close to panic. All Kaldreth forces are to withdraw from the Sol system immediately. This is not a request, Admiral Vorkith. This is a direct command from the High Council. Supreme Commander, we still have 40,000 troops on the surface. Then get them off. Now. Before those primates decide to keep them. The evacuation was chaos. Beautiful, humiliating chaos. My proud warriors, veterans of dozens of campaigns, scrambled aboard transports like frightened hatchlings. The humans didn't even try to stop us. They just watched. Filmed us. Broadcast our retreat across every frequency they could access. I should have been relieved. We were getting out alive, which was more than I'd expected after Hart's little announcement. But something felt wrong. Telmar noticed it too. Admiral, they're letting us go too easily. Would you prefer they shoot at us? No, sir. But look at their military formations. They're pulling back. Regrouping. Almost like they're waiting for something. He was right. Across the planet, human forces were withdrawing to defensive positions. Not celebrating. Not pursuing. Just watching our ships rise into orbit with expressions I couldn't quite read. We were 3,000 kilometers above Earth's surface when my console lit up again. Admiral, we're detecting a massive energy signature. Source is the lighthouse station near their moon. Are they targeting us? No, sir. They're aiming at. Oh no. Telmar, what is it? They're opening a wormhole, Admiral. Impossible. Wormhole technology required exotic matter, quantum computing beyond anything the Assembly had achieved, and power sources that could light entire solar systems. Humans didn't have any of that. Except apparently, they did. The space near Earth's moon tore itself apart. Not violently. Elegantly. Like someone had unzipped reality and peeked through to somewhere else. Through the opening, I could see stars I didn't recognize. A different part of the galaxy entirely. Where does it lead? I asked, though part of me already knew the answer. Scanning now. Admiral, that's the Pelthax home system. Distance, 47,000 light-years. 47,000 light-years. We'd need 3 months to travel that far using our fastest drives. Humans had just stepped across it like walking through a door. Sir, the humans are transmitting again. Not General Hart this time. A different human. Male, older, with white hair and the kind of smile that made me nervous. He wore civilian clothing and sat in what looked like a university office. Books lined the walls behind him. Hello, Kaldreth Dominion. My name is Dr. Henry Okoye. Theoretical physicist. Before you rudely interrupted, I was teaching undergraduate classes and working on my crossword puzzles. Now I'm humanities liaison to the Galactic Assembly. Funny how things change. He folded his hands on his desk. I assume you've noticed our little science project. Took us 30 years, like General Hart said. Bit tricky, the math. Had to completely reimagine quantum field theory. But you know what helped? Your arrival. See, we'd been working from pure theory. Then you showed up with working faster than light drives, energy weapons, artificial gravity. Gave us a nice baseline to reverse engineer. I felt sick. They've been studying us. Of course they have, Telmar whispered. The whole time. Every weapon we used, every technology we deployed. They were learning. Dr. Okoye continued, now, I'm sure you're wondering what we plan to do with our new toy. Well, here's the thing. We've been monitoring assembly communications for decades. Ever since we started looking for extraterrestrial life. And we've noticed something interesting. He pulled out a tablet, tapped it a few times. There are 1,247 member species in the Galactic Assembly. But only 12 have any real power. The rest? They're subjects. Slaves in all but name. Their world stripped for resources. Their people pressed into labor. All under the guise of civilized governance. His smile faded. That ends now. The image changed. Split screen. On one side, Dr. Okoye. On the other, a live feed of the wormhole. And through it, I could see ships. Human ships. They looked nothing like our sleek warships or elegant cruisers. They were ugly, brutal things. All sharp angles and exposed weapons. Function over form. And there were hundreds of them. These are the first vessels of the Human Defense Fleet, Okoye said. Built in secret over the past 3 decades. We started construction the same day we sent out the Voyager probes. Because here's something you should know about humans. We hoped we'd find friends out here among the stars. We really did. But we planned for enemies. The ships began moving through the wormhole. Dozens at first. Then hundreds. All heading toward Pelthax space. The Pelthax people have been under Mrendak occupation for 200 years, Okoye continued. Their world stripped of resources. Their children taken as laborers. The assembly knew. The assembly did nothing. Well, we're doing something. This is insanity, I muttered. They're going to start a war that will consume the entire galaxy. No, Admiral, Telmar said quietly. They're going to end one. My subordinate was right. Again. Because as I watched those human ships pour through the wormhole, as I saw the data coming in from our intelligence networks, I realized what was happening. The humans weren't starting a war. They were offering a choice. Every oppressed species in the galaxy was watching this broadcast. Every slave world, every occupied territory, every conquered people. And they were seeing that resistance was possible. That their oppressors weren't invincible. More than that, they were being armed. The technological database Hart mentioned wasn't just military tactics. It was everything. Power generation. Food production. Medical technology. All the tools needed to build a civilization that could stand on its own. And the means to fight back against anyone who tried to stop them. "Admiral," one of my officers called out. "We're receiving reports from across the Dominion. Uprisings on 17 worlds. No, wait. 23. 31. Sir, they're everywhere." I watched my console fill with alerts. Rebellions. Revolts. Revolutions. Species we'd conquered centuries ago, suddenly remembering they didn't have to accept subjugation. The humans had weaponized hope. "Sir, the High Council is evacuating the capital. The Mrendak Collective is recalling all military forces to defend their core worlds. The Zelker hegemony just issued a statement condemning the Kaldreth Dominion for provoking humanity." Of course they did. The hegemony had been looking for an excuse to knock us down for decades. Now we'd handed them one. My communicator chimed. "Private channel. Supreme Commander Volth." "Admiral Vorkith," he said, and his voice sounded ancient. "Tired. The High Council has voted. The Dominion is withdrawing from all contested territories. We're recalling our fleets. Consolidating around our home systems. Sir. It's over, Vorkith. We lost. To a species that still uses paper currency and argues about whether their climate is changing. We lost. The channel closed. I stood there, on the bridge of my warship, watching the galaxy I knew crumble. Around me, my crew worked in silence. There was nothing to say. Telmar approached carefully. "Admiral, what are your orders?" "What were my orders?" "We'd been recalled. The war was over. We were going home in disgrace. But something caught my attention. A small message, text only, appearing on my personal console. The encryption was human. Simple but effective. It read, "Admiral Vorkith, you seem like a reasonable being. When you get home, when your people are licking their wounds and wondering what went wrong, remember this. We didn't want war. We wanted to join you. To be part of something bigger. You could have had allies. Friends. Instead, you chose violence. Think about that. And if your people ever want to try again, properly this time, you know where to find us. Dr. Henry Okoye." I read it 3 times. Then a 4th. "Sir." Telmar prompted. "Set course for home," I said quietly. "Best speed." The journey back took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of listening to reports about the galaxy tearing itself apart. The Pelthak's liberation took 4 days. Human ships and newly armed Pelthak's resistance fighters drove the Mrendak occupation forces off-world with minimal casualties. Minimal on the Pelthak side, anyway. The Mrendak weren't so lucky. Similar stories played out across assembly space. Humans didn't conquer anyone. Didn't claim territory or demand tribute. They just showed up, helped the locals fight back, then left through their wormholes. Always offering the same thing, technology, training, and an open door if anyone needed help. Within a month, 47 species had declared independence from their former overlords. By the time we reached Kaldreth Prime, that number had doubled. The homecoming wasn't celebratory. No crowds. No ceremonies. Just shame and a summons to appear before the High Council. I expected execution. Exile at best. Instead, I got something worse. A promotion. Admiral Vorkith, Supreme Commander Volth said, looking older than I remembered. "You are hereby appointed as the Dominion's first ambassador to Earth. Congratulations. I stared at him. Sir. You heard me. The council has decided that if we can't beat the humans, perhaps we should try their other suggestion. Diplomacy. But I led the invasion. I gave orders that killed thousands of their people. Yes. Which is why you're perfect. You understand what they're capable of. You've seen their strength. And most importantly, you retreated when you could have fought to the last soldier. They'll respect that. Would they? I wasn't sure. But I didn't have a choice. 3 months later, I stood in a human city called Geneva. The building was called the Palace of Nations, which seemed grandiose until I learned it was over 200 years old. Humans like to reuse things. The meeting room was simple. A long table. Chairs that weren't designed for Kaldreth physiology but which I managed. And across from me, 3 humans. Dr. Henry Okoye, looking exactly like his broadcasts. General Rebecca Hart, wearing a proper uniform this time. And between them, a younger human female with sharp eyes and a diplomatic smile. Ambassador Vorkith, she said, extending her hand in the human greeting gesture. I'm Ambassador Priya Sharma. Welcome to Earth. I took her hand carefully. Humans were so fragile. Thank you for seeing me. Of course. We're always happy to talk. That's sort of our thing. We sat. An awkward silence stretched out until Dr. Okoye chuckled. Relax, Ambassador. We're not going to eat you. Despite what your intelligence probably says, humans don't actually consume our enemies. Well, mostly. There was that one tribe in the Pacific, but that was centuries ago and really more ceremonial then. Henry, Ambassador Sharma interrupted gently. Right. Sorry. Point is, you're safe here. General Hart leaned forward. We've reviewed your record, Ambassador. You pulled your forces back when you could have bombarded our cities to rubble. You evacuated your wounded. You followed the laws of war as you understood them. I still invaded your world. Killed your people. Yes, Sharma said simply. You did. And we killed yours. War is ugly. But it's over now. The question is, what comes next? What came next? I'd spent the entire journey trying to figure that out. The Kaldreth Dominion wishes to extend formal apologies to humanity for its unprovoked aggression. We acknowledge our violations of sentient rights and territorial sovereignty. We are prepared to offer reparations. We don't want your money, Hart said bluntly. Then what do you want? The 3 humans exchanged glances. Sharma spoke first. We want what we've always wanted, Ambassador. To not be alone. You see, we've been looking up at the stars for thousands of years, wondering if anyone else was out there. When we found out you were. We were thrilled. Terrified, but thrilled. Even after we attacked you. Okoye nodded. Even then. Because it meant we weren't unique. Life finds a way, everywhere. That's beautiful. Worth fighting for. So here's our proposal, Sharma continued. The Galactic Assembly is broken. Everyone knows it. The strong prey on the weak, and everyone pretends there are rules. We want to build something better. A real assembly. Where every species has a voice. Where strength doesn't equal right. That's idealistic to the point of fantasy. Maybe, Hart admitted. But humans are good at fantasy. We've spent our entire existence imagining better worlds. Sometimes we even build them. Sharma slid a data tablet across the table. This is a draft charter for what we're calling the Galactic Coalition. Membership is voluntary. Decisions are democratic. Use of force requires unanimous consent except in self-defense. And every member species pledges to protect every other member from external threats. I read through it. The document was detailed, thought out, surprisingly fair. almost naive in its optimism. And if the assembly rejects this? If the hegemony or the collective decide they like the old way better? All three humans smiled. It wasn't a threatening expression. Not exactly. But it reminded me of Marcus Webb, the teacher from Denver, holding our weapon. Then they'll learn what humanity does to bullies, Hart said softly. I looked at the charter again. Read it more carefully. It was insane. Completely unworkable. It would require species who'd been enemies for millennia to cooperate. To trust each other. But then again, humans had managed to unify their divided world in less than a week when faced with invasion. Maybe they knew something about unity that the rest of us had forgotten. I'll take this to the High Council, I said. I can't promise they'll accept. We know, Sharma said. But we had to try. Because here's the thing, Ambassador. Earth never wanted war. We really didn't. But we were ready for one. And now that it's over, we're ready for peace. The question is the rest of the galaxy? I left Earth that day with the charter and a head full of questions. The flight home gave me time to think. About humanity. About the Dominion. About what kind of galaxy I wanted to live in. The High Council debated for 3 weeks. Some wanted to reject the charter outright. Others saw an opportunity. A few, like me, simply wanted to avoid ever fighting humans again. In the end, the vote was closer than anyone expected. But it passed. The Kaldreth Dominion became the 4th species to sign the Galactic Coalition Charter. Within a year, 70 more joined. The assembly didn't dissolve overnight. The hegemony and the collective held out, convinced their power would endure. They were wrong. Turns out, when you give oppressed species the tools to free themselves and a safe harbor to flee to, empires crumble pretty quickly. 5 years after humanity announced itself to the galaxy, the old assembly was gone. The coalition had 200 member species. Earth itself became a hub, not of power, but of culture. Humans welcomed everyone. Taught anyone who wanted to learn. And asked for nothing in return except respect. I'm retired now. Live on a human colony world called New Harmony. Ridiculous name, but the people are friendly and the food is surprisingly good once you get used to it. I teach history at the local university. Specifically, I teach about the day humanity joined the galactic community. My students, human and alien alike, always ask the same question. How could the assembly not see what humanity was? How could you make such a mistake? And I tell them the truth. We saw what we wanted to see. A divided, primitive species. Easy prey. We forgot to look deeper. Forgot to ask why a species would broadcast their location unless they were confident they could handle whatever answered. Humanity spent 10,000 years fighting itself. Perfecting warfare. Learning strategy and tactics and logistics. They built weapons that could end their world 1,000 times over. And somehow, impossibly, they chose not to use them. They looked at the abyss and stepped back. That's what we missed. Not their capacity for violence, though that was terrifying enough. We missed their capacity for restraint. For mercy. For hope. Earth never wanted war. But it was ready for one. And when that war came, they won it not with weapons, but with the simple revolutionary idea that the galaxy could be better. Turns out, they were right. I just wish we'd listened the first time.